I'm Beverly Smyrnis, here to bring you the stories of people who fearlessly pursue their passions. My guests have intentionally chosen a life of purpose, fulfillment, and balance. My wish is that you leave each episode feeling capable of realizing your boldest dreams. This episode of People Pursuing Passions is brought to you by Savvy Trucks, Toys, and SUVs. As a member of the Savvy List family of media, Savvy Trucks, Toys, and SUVs brings you news and insight into the dynamic world of the automotive industry, with reviews and driving experiences reported by the savvy drivers. Learn more on savvytts.com. So welcome. I'm happy to be talking to Paul Evans today about his race car driving hobby. I want to back up and say I've known Paul for years through the home building industry in my role as Building Savvy publisher. And I didn't know for a long time that he was also a race car driver. So I'm very fascinated to talk to him about that. I know, Paul, that you just got back from some big season of racing up north somewhere. Tell us about that, and then tell us about how you got into this.
You know, we have known each other for years, and I don't even remember how we got discussing cars or race cars or whatever, but I did. I just got back from the 60th running of the SCCA, that's the Sports Car Club of America's National Championship races this past week in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, a place called Road America. And it is a beautiful place. I mean, it is, I would say between it and Barber Motorsports, they're a toss-up on the beauty of a racetrack. And everybody's thinking, you know, it's grease and oil and all that, but this place is 620 acres of racetrack. One lap is 4.1 miles, which is very long for a road course. But we just got back from that. I actually qualified 2 cars this year. I'm 60-something years old. We'll go into that, but I'm one of the older ones there. But I did qualify 2 cars. What you have to do is you have to be in your top 10 cars in your region. There are 5 regions in the state of Texas. So I finished 8th in GT2 in the southern region. And I finished number 1 in H production in the southern region. So that qualified me to go to the national championship race. So that means there are 50 cars that qualify. And then of those 50 cars, there are some people that just won't go because they're not sure that they can do a national race, because it's not for the faint of heart money-wise. It's fairly expensive. So I brought 2 cars there, and I actually had a 3rd car that I bought in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I had it delivered to Road America just because I had the equipment there to bring it home. That was the only reason why I did that. Well, come to find out, I blew up the GT2 car, literally blew the engine up in practice, and I had this other car sitting there, and we all stood around one morning over a cup of coffee and my orange juice, and I said, heck, I got the car. Let's take whatever parts we need off of this car and get this car ready. And we did, got it ready to go. I started 23rd last because I, had a car that had never qualified. So I had to start last, and finished 17th. So I felt really strong about the car, even though the other car blew up and probably going to cost me it will cost me tens of thousands of dollars to fix. And then the H production car, I did really well. Again, started 23rd last, because I was so worried about the other one. I didn't qualify very well. Finished 14th in that car and won the Hard Charger Award. So they give you 2 tires for the Hard Charger Award. So anyway, so that's what I just did this past week. I was there for 10 days in beautiful Wisconsin. Woke up in the morning in the 40s. The highs were in the 70s. Not a drop of rain. It rained one night, and that was it. The entire time was spectacular. Brenda and I had a fantastic time. So it was really good.
Awesome. So how did you get into race car driving? How did you have time? I know you're a busy guy with all that you do.
I tell people, I don't play golf. I don't hunt. I don't fish. I have always been into cars. So back in the late 70s, I worked for my dad's cabinet shop. He owned Evans Brothers Cabinets. We would build cabinets for home builders. We'd build cabinets in the shop and take them and install them to the job site, or we'd build them at the job site. I got upset with my dad because I was running 2 crews. Come to find out that the crews were making more money than I was. Now, I was a dumb 17-year-old at the time, back in the mid-70s. Didn't put 2 and 2 together that mom was making my lunch and making breakfast and making dinner and making my bed and washing my clothes, and I didn't have rent. But the guys were making more money than I was. So I got upset and went to work for a mechanic shop. I left the cabinet and my dad goes, hey, fine, that's what you want to do. And I went to work for this mechanic shop because I'd always liked cars and I worked with my grandfather at the mechanic shop repairing cars. And so I went to work for a mechanic shop in Houston. I lived in Houston at the time. You know, it was crazy. I'm working there and I keep seeing these race cars in the background, and it's a regular mechanic shop, right? We do starters and brakes and stuff like that. And I finally asked these guys, I said, hey, what's the deal with these race cars? These are pretty nice looking race cars. I said, oh yeah, the owner's son is a race car driver. And I go, okay, great. You know, and they go, hey, you know, if you want to go one time, there's a local track. We go watch race, and he practices there. Okay. So we go out there, and I said, God, this is really interesting. Well, they had this old Datsun 240Z that was an old race car. And I said, hey, what's up with this one? That's an old junker. He said, if you want to work on it, you can work on it and you can start racing it. So I did. I started working on that car and racing that car and got fairly good. So then they moved me to be a tire changer for this guy's practice squad. So we would go to a place called Texas World Speedway, which is in Bryan College Station, an old racetrack. And the guy's son, who was the race car driver, never liked to race on brand new tires. He wanted what's called scuffs. And the scuff is that you go out and do 4 laps at speed and then come in, take the tires off, put another set of tires on and do it again. And he wanted those scuffs because those tires would come up to temperature quicker in the race. And so my job was to change the tires off of the race car, and he had a test driver. His name was Andre, who would go out and do his thing. And so one day we got there and we got a whole truckload of tires to do this scuffing, right? Brand new tires. And Andre didn't show up. You know, it gets to be 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30, no Andre. And finally they said, hey, what are we going to do? We got to get all these tires done. The head guy, his name was Tim. Tim goes, well, let Paul do it. And he goes, what are you talking about? The kid who changes starters in the back and sweeps the floor? I said, yeah, he can do it. Put him in the car. And so they asked me, and I said, yeah, I got my helmet in the truck. So we went, I got my helmet, and I jumped in this guy's race car, who, by the way, was going to race that weekend in that car because he always scuffed in the same car. And so I went out, and we did, I don't know, 8 or 9 sets of tires. I'd go out and come back, and they go, hey, you do know what you're doing. Yes, great. Keep doing. Well, about lunchtime, the owner and his son show up, and I'm out there, you know, going to Texas World Speedway. I come in and they go, what, Andre get a new helmet? They go, no, Andre didn't show up yet. That's Paul. They go, what, the kid in the back that sweeps the floor? What is he, like 16 years old? No, he's 17. I take off. And I come back in and all I hear is, get him the hell out of my car. I hope I can say that. Get him the hell out of my car, you know? I get out of the car and they pull me aside and say, what makes you think you're doing, you know, And I said, hey, they told me to do it and I did it. And they looked at my times and they looked at all the tires and it was doing right. And they said, where's Andre? And they said, and finally they said, okay, fire Andre. Paul's going to be our tire tester from now on. The owner of the shop was Anthony Foyt and his son is AJ Foyt. So I scuffed tires for AJ Foyt for 2 years. So that's how it all started, you know? So, and I've been doing it ever since. And every time I get back from a race, probably costs me between $10,000 and $12,000 a weekend to race. And so I go, you know, I don't know what a set of golf clubs cost, but I bet they're a lot cheaper than that, you know? So anyway, and so I'm a member of a private club in Dallas, just like a country club. It's called Eagles Canyon Raceway. And I keep my race cars there in a garage. I get to use the track up there. It's a beautiful track.
Texas Auto Riders Association has its Texas Truck Rodeo. Steve and I were just there a couple of weeks ago. Road track. That was fun.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you went on the dirt track out in the back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And over the big rocks and with the trucks and everything. It was fun.
That is cool. That is cool. So they put me in one of those side-by-side things and went about 100 miles an hour over lifts. And I'm definitely too old to come down hard like that, you know. So I stay on the road course. So
some of those trucks, it's like a Sunday drive because there's, you know, the truck that has all the technology, it does everything for you. Those are the ones I like.
Right. Well, let me tell you, they have some Porsches now, GT3 RSs, that you don't have to shift them anymore. They're automatic. You just start driving and it shifts for you. And they have a manual. The car is actually faster and better at shifting than you are. I can't afford those. I keep with my old cars. So anyway.
So I have to ask, what kind of car do you drive on the freeways when you're in town in Dallas?
Right. I'm an SUV guy, and I've got an old Range Rover. Everybody gives me a hard time about my Range Rover, but I like it because it matches my bus that we take. So it's painted the same color as my Benz.
Oh,
So,
that's
yeah.
cool. And you can take it off road if
That's
you need
right.
it.
Exactly. So I do. So I race what's called a Panos GTS. A lot of people don't know how to pronounce it, and it's PANOZ. And I say it's very simple. Pay through the nose. That's how you pronounce that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so I race a Panos GTS, and then I also race in vintage racing. I race a 1970 Datsun 510. Looks like a little bread box. I love that car because it's just a set of brakes lasts all year because you don't use the brakes in that car. You just ease off the throttle and turn. But anyway, I race a Panos GTS, and I also own a Panos Esperante, which is the street version of that car. And then I have a little bit of an affliction. They call it an addiction. I love the Porsche 944. So I don't even know how many, 5 or 6 Porsche 944s and a 968, which will be delivered this week. So all older Porsches. So anyway, crazy.
I'm sure that you know how to fix them when they break down too. I know Paul also has a farm where he even makes the fuel, so he's totally off the grid there.
Yeah, I enjoy working on them. The Porsches are a little bit, because they have some computers and stuff that I don't understand, everybody with their laptop. But I love the Panos because I can fix anything that's on that car because I know it's old school car. And as you know, Beverly, you have been to my farm. You know that I like to tinker.
Yes.
I like to figure stuff out. I don't have a sustainable farm because I'm a big tree hugger or whatever. I work for the largest lumber distribution company in the world. So I'm not a big tree hugger or anything, but I do like to understand things, and I like to figure out a problem. When I bought the place, there was no water there. I'd had to drill a well. Well, it's going to cost me astronomical, like $150,000 to drill a well. And the city wanted $250,000 to bring water there. So I said, you know what? Look, I got to figure out how to do this. So we collect all the water from the roofs of the buildings and filter them ourselves. And matter of fact, I patented the filtration system that I sold to a company called Watts Water. So anyway, that's off the subject.
I distinctly remember that very cool wine cellar that you built in an old silo, and you have to walk down a ladder to get in there. And I love that. Yeah. And we had a really good glass of wine in there.
That's right. Yeah, it's basically an old grain silo that I cut 30 feet off of it and laid it down, welded up the ends, and then welded a ladder up. It's about 18 feet below ground, and my wife, Jamie, used to keep between 150 and 300 bottles of wine down there all the time, constantly. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, we said if there's going to be a big storm or if doomsday come, I'm going to come to your wine
there you go.
silo. I'm getting stuck
come
in
to
there.
The wine cellar and you'll be fine because it's off the grid. No matter what's happening up top, we're fine down here. So
that's there you go. Well, I think the lesson that we can learn from Paul is, no matter how demanding of a career that you have, you can still have time for passions in life, hobbies. And Paul, I don't know how you managed to do it all, but you're a real inspiration.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know that I want to be an inspiration to anybody because I feel that I've got a lot more to do, a lot of things I'd like to do. That was a bucket list to go to Road America. I had never been to Road America before, and I will be going back for sure. And Brenda will too. She enjoyed it. We always have a golf cart that we take with us to every race. I have it in the race trailer. It's funny. She put a little sticker on it that said, "This is Brenda's golf cart, no one else," because my crew chief and the mechanics, they'll jump in something and take off. And boy, nobody took that golf cart. I can tell you that's for sure. So she had a great time.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for talking with us about your racing hobby. And I love it. I'm inspired.
Well, I can't imagine. I want to inspire anybody to get into cars or racing because it's stupid expensive. And, if I didn't be in it, I'd be retired at my vineyard or something right now. Otherwise, I have to keep working to keep doing that. That's for sure. But thanks for the question. You caught me way off guard with that. That's for sure. So anyway, thank you for that.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, Paul, I just want to thank you for being here today to talk about your racing hobby, and I wish you the best in the next race.
Yo, thank you for that. I actually have a race coming up the second week in November at the Formula One track in Austin. It's a vintage race there. but I will be racing the Panos GTS. So thanks again for catching me off guard with those questions. I had no idea that we were going to talk about racing. So it was really good. It gets away from the building industry every now and then. So thank you for that. Thanks for the invite.
All right. Thank you to the multi-talented Paul Evans.